Well, thank you very much. I'm not sure how much better I can do now. That has been said already. No, I'm just joking. But she's a fantastic job. I'm proud to be your grandfather, number 2 grandfather. We'll call it that, maybe. And Dr. Tracy, as a true friend in writing the foreword for my book, I'm proud of you. And and all the people that worked with me on this book, it certainly wasn't done by me alone, but to have a team around me made all the difference. Scott McWalter is always there, available to me, is very close to me, and works very closely with me in a number of other areas. You know, I have a couple of people that work closely with me, and ADHD, I have 2 of them running behind me because I'm usually go, 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 go. All day long. That's part of being ADHD. If I kind of look back, I was born in Holland, obviously 82 years ago, and in 1940, we were liberated by the Canadians, and it had such an amazing impact on me that I always knew from that point forward I would go to the land of my heroes. And then my dad works in the lumber industry, and my grandfather was a master carpenter. So it always made an impression on me. And then I was not very good in school. I failed grade 3. Nobody fails grade 3, really, but I did. And then I failed grade 7 3 times. And then they said, okay, that's pretty much enough, I think. And so they said, okay, we'll send them either to the mentally challenged school or we get them a trade. So I got they said, okay, we'll send them to become a furniture maker. I liked that, actually. So my dad, I always remember, took me to the store. A friend of his had a clothing store, and so now all the kids were going to go on holiday. I failed again on Friday, and they were going on holidays, but I had to go to work that Monday. So they got a set of coveralls, but they didn't have coveralls long enough or short enough for me because I was small. And so I had them all folded up, and then the crotch was hanging here. Popular now, but then it wasn't. And so that's how I started. And the interesting things that happened is obviously that my friends, I was now a worker, and some of them were not as close to me anymore as they were before, because I was somebody that had was not good at school and had to be working. And it troubled me to a certain extent, but I always stayed optimistic, and I knew I could do it, and I was as good as everybody else, but I didn't know quite what was going on and what had happened. I was drafted into the Air Force for 2 years when I was 18, actually, till the time I was 20, and then I kind of felt that I had failed. Not uncommon to people that obviously have difficulty in school, and it became clearer to me, at least in my mind, although I was already successful in the lumber industry in Holland, I had to start anew. And I thought, what I'm going to do, I'm going to start from the bottom up. I left Holland with $150. I wanted to go into the lumber industry, and I had a dream to build my own lumber mill. And I knew it was in British Columbia. And by the time I got to Vancouver and then talked to somebody, I couldn't speak the language, didn't know so. I talked to a German fellow actually in Vancouver in the immigration department, and I told him what I wanted to do. He said, Prince George. Everything is happening in Prince George. So I went down there, I got off the bus here. The Greyhound station is still here, the old one. I think it's on 5th or so, and so I stood there, and I couldn't speak the language, didn't know have a job, didn't know anybody, and I counted my money. I had $25.47, but I still had my dream. And then from there on in, things happened in different ways, but it was not until I was 57 that I walked into the books on food and was standing there. And I'm not deeply into books. A lot of people that have ADHD are not good readers necessarily. But I was standing there for some reason or another. I looked at the book, driven to distraction. And as I looked at it, it talked about ADHD. And the more I saw in the book, I must have been there for a half an hour, and finally the guy that owned the store was kind of saying are we going to buy it, or what's the plan? You know. So in any event, I did buy it, and but then I thought, now I finally know who I am. And I wrote in the book in Dutch because I was ashamed of it. Now I finally know who I am. And then from there on in, it took me another 5 years, it's 50 till I was 62, that I went to my doc, who I already knew for a long time, and I came into my doctor's office, and he said, hey John, how are you doing? What can we do? I said, I think I got ADHD. And so we kind of looked at it together, and he spent some time looking at it, and he said, I think so too. And so from there on in, it took me a bit of time to kind of adjust to that, because there was still a lot of stigma around it. I don't know if there's bankers in the room, but in any event, I could not go to my banker and saying, everything is okay except I got ADHD. You say, okay. Yeah. So it may affect my career. It took some time from there on in until I become more comfortable with it. And the more I thought about it, the more I felt an obligation I had to talk about it. Because I was already convinced by then. It gave me certain abilities that, with all due respect, other people did not have, that made people with ADHD unique. And, you know, so, and then I started speaking about it more, and the more I talked about it, and particularly in the last 2-3 years, I knew I had an obligation to write about it. And it took about 18 months ago, I wrote 2 books, as you may know. Driven to Distraction, I already related to what it was, the challenges that I had. And I wanted to be totally open and candid about that. And then I felt, about 18 months ago, I had to go beyond that and write a book about ADHD Unlocked. And here we are today, and every time I turn around, and the more people I talk to, the more people I find who say, I have it too. I know here the operator, owner of the operation, is Craig still here? He must have gone to work. But he's the other one that, you know, the ADHD. And obviously Dr. Lotz and Tracy as well, and many, many others, and it happens virtually on a daily basis. So I believe the biggest challenge for us is to learn about it, accept it as not necessarily a disorder, but look at the positive sides of ADHD. The earlier a young person gets diagnosed, the more they can do in terms of directing their life in a direction so that they can go to schooling, you know, that is different than it would be traditional, because they have a difficulty with, you know, the attention in particular. And, you know, so I believe more and more, and I hope the book contributes to all of that, the ADHD will be understood better. And the book that I wrote, in particular, is aimed at the people that have ADHD. It is written in such a way that it doesn't become boring. You can go halfway through, start there, go back, or go all over the place, uniquely for that purpose. Even to the extent that I believe that the frequency of occurrence is so frequently that it is virtually impossible to, in your circle of family or friends, or with people that you will encounter in your life, there will be people with ADHD, and they are slightly different. That's a good thing. And you know, and for those that are affected by it, even young people, is it a disorder? No, it is. It has the potential of being a superpower. So I'm proud of being ADHD, and thank you for being here today, and you know, celebrating the book together with us.